what we're going to draw today, we're going to focus on learning how to draw birds. And I decided to pick one of my favorite birds because I wanted to also talk about how birds help with the plant life cycle. So first thing first, whenever you're drawing a bird, is you're going to want to start by drawing their head, which is usually round shaped. So we're going to start with kind of an oval shaped circle towards the top of our page. It's going to be their head. So next, we're going to draw the bird's neck. So we have a neck, birds have a neck. We're going to draw kind of like two little lines going out from underneath the circle. So right now, it almost looks like it could be any animal. It's got a head, it's got a neck. What starts to make the bird different than other animals, and second graders, you guys have been talking about this, is birds have something that we definitely don't have, which is wings. When we draw a bird, what we're going to do is we're going to draw kind of a hill like this, almost like a bump that's going to go down. And then we're going to draw almost like a half a circle to show that this is a wing right here. So we've got almost like its shoulder, this bump, then it kind of straightens down in the diagonal line. And then we've got this curve, makes it look like a wing instead of an arm. We're going to also draw the bird's belly. So we're going to do kind of a big half circle again, kind of like that. Curve down. Something I like to do is I like to draw kind of like lots of little points at the end of the wing, because a lot of times when birds have just finished flying or they've landed, their wings are kind of fluffy. So sometimes I like to kind of add little zigzaggy lines. Makes it look a little bit more like a wing. And then we're going to draw also the bird's tail. It's going to be a long line. I'm doing another diagonal line. It's kind of angled like that. I want to connect back to this belly, so we're going to go like this and draw its tail. And I do kind of like little zigzags at the end of the tail too. So again, we all started with that circle head, little lines for the neck, but then to make sure we know it's a bird, we got to add that big wing. It's almost like an upside down raindrop shape, the wing, or it almost looks like a leaf on a branch. And then we had the belly of the bird and its tail. Like I said, birds like us, they have two little legs that they stand on so that they can walk around and so that they can land on branches. It almost looks like this, almost like an angle or a greater than, less than symbol. So we're going to do that here. See how I did that? This is going to be one of its legs. Kind of looks like it's bending backwards, like its knee is back here. We're going to do that again next to it so that it looks like a shape. And then birds don't have feet the way that we have feet. They have what they're called talons. So when I'm drawing a bird, it's a little tricky, but I kind of draw like 1, 2, 3 lines coming out of the feet. And then I try to turn them into almost little triangles. Because you always want to try to have shapes. You don't always want to just do little lines. You kind of want to make it all connect back together into shapes. Second leg down here. You don't always see the bird's second leg. It just depends on where it's standing or if anything's in the way. I'm going to draw a little one behind it. The birds have 2 legs. They have wings instead of arms. And then birds have very different faces than us. They don't have teeth, right? They don't have mouths and teeth like we do. They have instead a beak, which just opens and closes like this. So when they are eating seeds and berries, sometimes they're going to be eating a fruit or a berry and the seeds will actually just kind of fall. Birds are important for plants. It's because they take these seeds from plants, they go fly somewhere else, and then when they're eating, they drop the seeds everywhere because their beak may not be able to eat all of it, or it might fall out the side of their beak. So when we're drawing a beak on a bird, it's usually a triangle shape that we draw. But I'm going to give you guys a bit of a challenge today. I want us to try to draw a bird that has a berry in its mouth, in its beak. So we're going to do one line going up like this, and then one line kind of straight out like this. Then we're going to make little triangles. We're going to connect this one back. I'm kind of curving it a little bit. Don't want it to be a perfectly straight triangle. And then we got this one too that has to be out like this. So that way it's open and we can fit a berry inside, like a little circle. And it looks like it just picked one right off of a tree. So I started to think of some of my favorite birds, and one of my favorite birds is called a Cedar Waxwing. They come down to South Carolina when it's winter time. And what they do is they eat only fruits and berries, really. They eat berries from holly trees. So you guys know around Christmas time and holidays in winter, a lot of times you'll see decorations with holly berries, these little red berries hanging up places. So cedar waxwings eat holly berries, they eat juniper berries, and they eat mistletoe berries as well. That's the thing, you'll see them a lot of times around winter time, which is when mistletoe and holly is all over the place. And so these cedar waxwings have what I like to call, almost looks like a ponytail or a mohawk. They have a tiny feather that sticks out from the top of their head like this. So I'm going to draw a line sticking out from the top, and I'm going to do little zigzaggy lines to connect it back. It almost looks like it's got a little ponytail at the top of its head. And then another thing that's cool about cedar waxwings is they have an eye mask. Almost like a superhero, they have little black masks around their eyes. So I'm going to draw a little mask here. I'm going to draw a mask like this. I'm doing a line across where its eyes are going to be, and then I'm connecting it back. Like that. And then you could draw its eye in the middle there. And then we also want to show the wings and feathers of a cedar waxwing. So the cedar waxwing on its wings, I'm going to draw these lines. I'm going to kind of curve them, and that's going to make it look like feathers. You can also add these lines on its chest. In fact, artists call this feathering because a lot of artists use this whenever they're drawing birds. So they decided to just start calling it feathering. It's this idea of just going like this, adding lots of little lines all next to each other to make something look like it has feathers. And now this is where, if you have colored pencils, it really helps to have some colored pencil that rounds, because a cedar waxwing has some really interesting colors. So a cedar waxwing is brown, yellow, black, and then has the tiniest little bit of red on its wings. It's actually why it's called a waxwing. It has these tiny waxy parts on its wing right about here. Most of the waxwing is going to be brown. Like I said, we've got the little black, almost like a superhero mask. It's black around the eye. Its beak is black. So this is what you could color in right now. Its beak is black. Its mask is black. It's got a little bit of like a black gray on part of its wing, just down here. And it's got black a little bit here. But most of its body is actually going to be a light brown color. And that's something else that I really like about looking at birds. Every once in a while you'll see a bird and just kind of think, because I used to do this, I used to think, oh, you know, it's just a little brown bird. Or it looks like it's maybe just a crow. And I didn't really know how to look for the things that make birds unique and different. And again, one of the things that's really great about the cedar waxwing that makes it unique is what it eats. It eats all these different berries. They really need the cedar waxwing, those trees and those berries. They need it to take the seeds to different places so that there can be new trees. The one thing that makes the cedar waxwing also very special is just how pretty its colors are. So it has this light brown on most of its body, but then on its kind of underbelly, there's bright yellow. It's really beautiful if you ever get to see a cedar waxwing in person. They have a little bit of yellow on their tail too. Don't forget his little mohawk too. You can add to that, you can make that even fluffier. This is when you kind of start adding the details and coloring it in. And then, like I said, something that I didn't even notice about a cedar waxwing until I really looked closely, like with my binoculars, where there's these tiny little bits of red, kind of right here on the wing. And they're actually little tiny, like waxy wingtips. And then I'm going to color in the berry. I'm going to color in the eye. I'm going to leave a tiny little bit of white in the eye. You can color in the legs like a light gray. And this is when you can add a background. I did this one the other day. I looked at a picture for this one. You can always look at a picture when you're drawing. It does really help because sometimes you notice things that you didn't notice before. You look really closely. Like I say, sometimes when we go into art class, I'll say kind of pretend like you've got binoculars. Look really closely at the picture. But again, this is a really fun project this time of year because I'm seeing so many different types of birds. I hope you all had a lot of fun learning how to draw birds. And I hope you take what you learned from this video and practice drawing some of the birds that you see in your own backyard. So again, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Goodbye.